Hi everybody. I got a lot of comments, arguments, debates, you name it, on my letter to Russia video that I posted. I I got an interesting comment written in Russian, and I'm like, "Whoa, what is this?" So I used my translate thing and started reading what this person had wrote. And also, the Russian person uh, had videos on their own channel. I think like 24 videos. And so I couldn't hear what the videos were about, but using Translate, I could see what was written about the videos, in the description. Fortunately, this person wrote a whole lot in the video description, and so when I found out what they were talking about, I started commenting, and then I got into a conversation that didn't end until 5 o'clock this morning. Oh boy. And I was commenting back and forth to this Russian person. Well, come to find out, this person is in Kazakhstan, I think is how you pronounce it. And the title for their name is something to the effect of the shunned one. So I wanted to know what was going on. Well, when he messaged me back, he says, "Oh, well, I just knew by your video you were the person to talk to." And I was like, "Oh, wow, really?" Well, anyway, um, what is going on in Russia? With the XJW community. Oh, wow, this is so exciting. Now, people that have been commenting on my channel, talk about the poor Russians and human rights and all this other stuff. But I found out from this Russian what's going on. The comments are probably still on his videos if anybody wants to trace it back. But what happened is that this person was complaining about Jehovah's Witnesses being lonely and sad and isolated. And I do know that that happens everywhere. He says that the shunning of the witnesses has led to the shunning of people, that are disfellowshipped, has led to suicides and all kinds of things. And I was like, wow, they're a world away. And the repercussions from the organization are exactly the same. Everything happens the same way with this organization. You gotta wonder why. So all these people that are talking bad about banning the Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia really need to go and investigate what this guy in Russia has to say. Well, like I say, he's not really in Russian, but he's a Russian. Well, anyway, he got disfellowshipped actually because he wanted the elders in the congregation to answer some questions, and every time he was asking questions, they were just blowing him off. He didn't get the right answers, so he decided to write Bethel. Well, to write Bethel. Well, the letters he sent registered, and I'm not sure if it was the Bethel in the U.S. he was writing. I believe that it was the branch office in Kazakhstan, because he had left an address and a phone number to write and to call them, and was asking people, please call them and see if they will answer these questions by you. You know, he's encouraging everybody, please call and see if you can get some answers, because if they call the branch office, number one, they won't give their name, who they are, just like here. And then they say, well, they can't answer things over the phone, just like here. Then they say, well, you need to go, you need to submit it in writing, or, yeah, well, he wound up writing a bunch of letters, sent them registered. The branch office will not sign for them and accept them. Now, there was a problem with the disfellowshipping judicial committee, and he wanted to find out what exactly somebody had said, because he believes that what was said and got him disfellowshipped was not true. And so he wanted to ask them who had made the complaints and what they were, because he felt like he had done nothing wrong. And so they're not accepting his letters. They're not answering his questions. He's been trying to interview different people on video and ask them, why is it this way? And they're not giving him any answers. And I sent him a message back, and I says, you know, it's strange that that's exactly what happens to people here too. It's not just because you're in Russia. You know, the organization, no matter where it is, works the same way. You know, but also he is really concerned that when people are disfellowshipped, that it causes a lot of stress and anxiety and loneliness and depression, and it's pushing people into suicide because they're left with no family. And this is the same thing that happens everywhere, and what a lot of us XJWs are complaining about is that the shunning process does not work. It makes people realize that it's not a Christ-like organization when they can do that to people. Because come on, people, you got to realize that when somebody makes a mistake, you know, I can see there being some kind of punishment doted out for a gross sin or something like that, but shunning does not work, because number one, it destroys people. Then it makes them a lot of times suicidal. And all that comes of that is that Watchtower is blood guilty, because people, when they make a mistake and it's a real rough time in their life, that's when they need family and friends the most, to encourage them and upbuild them and to bring them back where they're supposed to be. But by shunning them, you push them out, and you drive them to do things that they wouldn't normally do. They're left with no options, no family, no encouragement, no uplifting, no anything. And it's not a good thing. You know, these poor kids that are getting baptized at 9, 10 years old, what happens when they get to be a teenager and make a mistake? Because, you know, all teenagers make mistakes. But according to the organization, those teenage mistakes might be gross sins, and they get disfellowship. Their parents won't talk to them. The parents can even kick them out of their homes. You name it. I mean, it turns a little mountain into a big molehill. And like I say, every single place that this organization is, suicides, depression, all that stuff follows that organization around. And as far as human rights, come on, people. People shouldn't be treated like that, to where they have no options in life, nothing left, nowhere, no one to talk to or go to. And that's why, since in the last few years, people, instead of getting disfellowshipped or disassociating and getting shunned and going away quietly, well, they're not gonna anymore. Gonna stand up and speak about something and say, hey, this is not good. This is not. You know, the Jehovah's Witnesses and Jehovah's Witness apologists, they'll say, oh, well, you're supposed to be punished. And you should just accept the punishment. And it's a good thing. It's a kind thing to do. It's a loving thing to do. They have all these little phrases from the organization has taught them to say in regard to the shunning and dissociating and all that. That's all they're doing is quoting what Watchtower has told them. Because I guarantee you, anybody that's been through it knows that it is not a loving thing to do. When the repercussions from that are that people lose their lives, how can that be Christ-like? How? Answer that. Answer that one simple question. How can it be Christ-like when it drives people into such despair and stress and depression that they turn to killing themselves? How is that Christ-like? How is that a loving arrangement? How about these 14, 15-year-old kids out on the streets that are up on the XJW websites saying they have no place to go because their parents won't let them in their house because they did something and they got disfellowshipped? Jehovah's Witnesses will say, oh, that doesn't happen. Now this Russian, he says that the JWs that have resorted to suicide are just quietly buried and nobody in the congregation is allowed to talk about it. Well, guess what? That's the same thing that happens in the United States of America. The same thing that happens in all countries that has that organization. And we're trying to stand up for those people that lose their lives and are so desperate and depressed that they resort to things like that. Somebody has to stand up and speak for them. Somebody has to say something. This is not right. This should stop. There's plenty of ways to discipline people without driving them to that point. Definitely something wrong with that. You can think about that, you know. But this Russian XJW also made a point that I've heard over and over again, is that if Jehovah's Witnesses are God's people and the elders are directed by Holy Spirit, why is it that the judicial committees are secret? Why is it that you can't audio or video record a judicial committee? Somebody needs to really know what's going on at those judicial committee meetings. And I applaud everybody who's had the courage and conviction to audio or videotape their judicial committees and post them. Because people need to see what's going on. How people get railroaded. How things get twisted and turned into somebody else's fault. They don't accept the responsibility for those things. And the JWs and the JW apologists that are commenting on my video and other people's videos, instead of flapping your mouth and telling us things that we know about but you don't, you need to sit down, shut up, and watch some of these videos and find out for yourself what's really going on. Because I guarantee you there's just as many people that have dissatisfaction with the organization as that there are active members these days. And we do talk to people all over the world and see that it's the same everywhere. People are being driven to desperate lengths. Shunning, all it does is show people how unchristlike it is and makes them convicted in their idea that, no, I don't want to go back to that. Who in the world wants to go back to an organization that treats people that are in desperate need of help in that manner? Really? Why can't you get it through your head? It is not a loving arrangement. It is not something that's nice. And when you call the branch, anybody, a Jehovah's Witness or not, and you call the branch and you tell them that you would like some answers, and they tell you, oh, well, we can't answer that over the phone. You'll have to write it and send it in a letter. And then they don't accept your letter or file 13 it. Oh, come on, really? That's what's going on. Really. Truthfully. And you're too stubborn and too blind to see it. That's why so many people in this world want to ban this organization, because it breaks up families. It kills people. And then the Jehovah's Witnesses go back to their congregation like nothing in the world happened. But they, in effect, have killed people by neglect. They're neglecting their people to the point where when they're in desperate need of somebody and something, they have nobody and nowhere to go. And it drives them to do those things. So wake up. Get it through your head. What we say out here is not made up. It's not stories. It's not because we're angry at JWs. We're angry that the organization tells JWs that this is the right thing to do. Those other JWs that are active today, that are still in that organization, they're not allowed to see or hear what really goes on. They don't know. So how can we be mad at them? But we'd really like to show them so they understand, because they might be next. What happens if something happens and it's your mother or your sister or your brother that get disfellowshipped, and you're the one not talking to them, and they go and hang themselves or shoot themselves? Where does that leave you? We're trying to warn you. We are the warning label. Just wake up, man. We are your warning